Alright, so this is going to be part 1 of how I made my award-winning Wuxian cosplay, so let's go ahead and get into it. So I just started by pulling reference pictures and doing a lot of research on what I wanted the garment to look like, how I was going to construct it, and pull it all together. So that is what I'm doing here. And then what I do is I usually go in and I will just start to sketch out and draw out my ideas. I'll draw out kind of what pattern I'm looking at constructing, what the different parts of the costume are, how I'm going to connect things together, and just kind of start to get like a roadmap and lay out how I'm going to pull the whole costume together. This is also when I'm starting to think about things like materials, what I want to make the cosplay out of, what certain parts need to be, whether it needs to be cotton or some other fabric that I'm hoping to work with, things like that, all the logistics. And this was the book that I ended up using to draft these patterns. If you're drafting a pattern that's not Hanfu, there are a lot of like online tutorials that will tell you how to do it, but there were not a whole bunch on how to do Hanfu. So I got that book. It's been really helpful, especially if you make a lot of Danmei cosplays and you want to pattern them yourself. And here I'm just starting to draw out the pattern for the short coat. As you can see, I kind of actually had to like Frankenstein a couple pieces of pattern paper together because I bought this pattern paper online and did not realize how small it was. Obviously, if you buy bigger pattern paper, you won't have this issue. But most of this is really just making measurements and kind of like connecting the dots. Again, that book really laid out all of the measurements and the different places that I would want to make those. And as well as if you're making a different kind of garment, any drafting pattern tutorial will also kind of tell you where to place those measurements. And this is how that pattern turned out once I kind of just connected everything together. And here I am working on the pattern for the long undershirt, and I just kind of wanted to show you all how I make my curves and patterns. I use a bendy ruler. I know that there are tools that are specifically designed for making curves and patterns, so it's really up to you which process you want to use, but a bendy ruler works just fine. And once the patterns are all drawn out, it's time to go ahead and cut them out so that you can transfer them onto fabric. And this is what that long shirt pattern ended up looking like once I had transferred it all onto fabric. I do go in and pattern the sleeves later after I've already transferred it over. The next step is to go ahead and put these patterns on fabric, so stay tuned for part 2.